So, this is the second in a series of articles about problems that we face with statistics. And in this second post, we'll look at gathering data in more detail, especially qualitative data. In future articles, we'll look at quantitative data, for example, the sorts of data that we'll get from the direct assessment of students, from their courses, for example. But for now, we're thinking about the kind of data that's used for indirect assessment. Such qualitative data needs particularly careful handling, both in terms of the way we collect it, what we discussed just here, and in terms also of the way that it's analysed, which we'll cover another time. A good deal of this qualitative data comes from surveys, and goodness, do institutions undertake a lot of surveys. Students get really fed up with the number of times they're asked for their views in this way. And at the end of every course, they have to complete a survey with questions regarding the quality of their teachers and the quality of their course. In addition, they're regularly asked for their views on the library, IT services, catering, parking, and so on and on and on. Is it any surprise that the response rates are sometimes very low? This is a known phenomenon, survey fatigue. Some institutions have tried to address this by placing surveys as a barrier to further information, desirable information like student grades. Do they really think this makes students happy and inclined to take surveys more seriously? Indeed, one institution I know included a question that said, "Answer very unsatisfied to this question." And nevertheless, the range of responses was similar to all the other questions. The students were not even reading the questions. Well, if you know anything about statistics at all, beyond how to calculate an average, you'll know that there's a whole area of work covering sampling. You don't need to be asking everybody everything in order to get representative information. This is a much more rational approach to reduce the burden of such surveys. Moreover, sometimes a questionnaire is not actually the best way of getting information anyway. I recently saw an alumni survey that was 11 pages long and contained over 60 questions. Surely it must have occurred to someone that, firstly, there was a better way of getting this information, and secondly, that such an intimidating survey would be very off-putting. Indeed, the response rate was absolutely dreadful. Almost nobody completed the survey. What about a focus group? Such an approach involves fewer people, but can be a representative sample if it's designed properly. And one can get refined information directly. But these are much less widely employed. It all looks like a distinct lack of imagination. And then there's the question of validity. Even if you get a great response rate and lots of data points, how reliable is it and what does it tell us? Well, quite a lot of research has been done on this in the area of student satisfaction of teaching. A recent study, references in the text below, came to the conclusion that firstly, students do not learn more from professors with higher student evaluation scores, and secondly, analyses of multi-section student evaluations indicate that ratings are unrelated to student learning. Well, what should we conclude from this? Well, such evaluations are often used as part of the evaluation of faculty, so there's an implicit assumption that faculty with higher ratings are better teachers, more effective, leading to better student achievement. But if this is not the case, why are we collecting such dubious data? Well, I think we should be collecting data from stakeholders, of course, about their satisfaction, but I also think that we should be very careful what we collect and what we think we're collecting it for. Mostly, I don't see much reflection going on. We've always done what we do and we don't question it. This is quite frankly hardly what one would expect from reflective, insightful and clever academics. So let's think about what we want to know, why we want to know it, and what we intend to do with the data. Then let's think how we might best collect such information in a way that makes sense, does not inconvenience people, and leads to the possibility that we can draw reliable conclusions.